lessons, your journey, your lessons, the journey and lessons that can.
Welcome to the Journeys and Lessons podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan, and I'm so happy that you're here with us yet another day. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we're here to rejoice and to be glad in it. Of course, on the Journeys and Lessons podcast, this is where real stories meet real wisdom. I'm your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan, and I believe that behind every success, every scars, and every step, there is a story worth telling. This is a space where we unpack the highs, the low, and the moments in between, tracing from childhood dreams to present day purpose. Each week, we sit down with an incredible individual who open up about their personal journey, the lessons they've learned, and the determination that kept them going. Joining me is a man of integrity, a teacher of the truth, and an author of a life changing book, Money Answereth All Things: Biblical Principles to Unlocking Financial Peace and Prosperity. He's a respected elder and a kingdom minded leader, and a voice we need in this hour. Elder Adrian Adman. Thank you so much, sir, for being here on the program as we welcoming to the Journeys and the Lessons podcast. How are you today, sir?
I'm fine, thank you, and thank you very much, Dr. Link, and greetings to your viewers and listeners as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, everyone, wherever you are in your journey on today, get ready to be inspired, to be challenged, and to be reminded that your stories matters too. So, let's dive into the program. Elder Adman, I'm so glad that you're here with us. One of the things we try to highlight on this podcast is person's journey and their lessons. Because a lot of time we see people in the space. We know that you're an associate pastor at Bethel Stony Hill, an accomplished author that has been, your book has been doing wonderful things. And, people see you, but not having the opportunity to truly know you and know who you are. And so we want to take them back, and then we'll move forward into where you are today. So I want to talk about your journey and how it started. Early childhood, formative years, where you grew up, school, etc. Talk to us about the formative year. And before we meet Elder Adrian Adman, talk to me about Adrian, the person.
Thank you very much, Dr. Links. Interestingly, you're probably the first person outside of my family who will get some insights in my deep early years before I became an elder and successful in terms of being an author. I was born in a district out from Stony Hill called Bowden Hill in the hills of St. Andrew, just off from Stony Hill. My early years, I lived in Stony Hill with my siblings, Andre, Thania, Andrew, the four of us and our parents, and we grew from there into, as children, we grew very good. Now, interestingly, for me, I'll tell you something that probably a lot of people don't know. I'm talking here good right now, but at the age of 5, I could not spell my name. I could not finish the alphabet, and I had challenges. Bear in mind, my mother was an early childhood educator, and at 4 years old at the time, I was at one institution, and they said, "Boy, it's bad because he should be doing better."
Right.
I think I was distracted. So I went there, and my mother shifted me to another school. And interestingly, within 2 weeks of going to that school, I was spelling my name.
Wow.
I was running through the alphabet. I was doing the numbers, and it was very well. And so my journey as I went up was one of coming from somebody who would have been down. And if you hear me now, I'm talking good, but I also struggled in terms of to speak. I have a lisp.
Right.
And so in having a lisp, sometimes, just as Moses was, I am a little careful. I mean, how do I sound? How will people perceive me? And some people laugh. And so I had to get over the journey of doing that. But we went through struggles as children, and we were what you'd call, we weren't dirt poor, but we weren't rich.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was years after looking back, I recognized that I thought that I had on a sandals, but I did a picture of me and my siblings, and we had on not a sandals, but it was a shoes that was cut out. The back of it went off, and that was our slippers.
Wow.
It was our slippers. So,
Right.
that was interesting. So we grew up from not just Stony Hill, but I went down to a place called Whitehall. And Whitehall at 5 years old brought back a lot of memories because earlier on in January 2025, I was reminded that my family suffered a near death fire. So we had a fire that burned down the house where we were staying, and we all escaped alive. But
Wow.
I looked at it because a 5-year-old child perished in a fire. And the interesting thing, and it broke my heart earlier this year because 38 years ago, I'm giving away my age now, but 38 years ago, I was that 5-year-old. Interestingly, the 5-year-old
Wow.
went to the same basic school that I went to. It was just so surreal,
Wow.
but yet still, God found it well to bring me out without a scratch. None of my siblings passed, my parents didn't pass, and so I knew that despite all of that, what I went through, that God was shaping me for purpose, and He
Yes.
was doing it on purpose, so that as I grew, I would be able to share these testimonies of His goodness.
Wow. This is powerful. This was powerful. God was creating you in purpose for purpose.
Yes,
My
sir.
God, this is really powerful. And so one other thing I want to know, what inspire you as you're growing up, and a lot of time we're coming through and we don't even recognize that we were poor until later, and you're like, but I was poor. Because you didn't even know what poverty is, because in your mind, I wear clothes, I eat, I go to church, I do things that everybody else do, so you'd never even know. But what was your environment like growing up, and how does this environment shape you into the person that you are today?
So my environment was one in which I understood the struggles of surviving on little. So my mother would have actually had us and my parents struggling. So, you know, we were there. We didn't know we were poor because if we had one chicken, she used one chicken to serve us with meals for 1 week. That's a
Wow.
true story.
Wow.
So a different meal for every day. She didn't complain about it. She used her ingenuity to be able to turn that into something else. My father also ensured that he went beyond the norm, went overseas, did, you know, doing work. When he was at home, he was doing odd jobs. So my family was built upon those hard times. I had very good family support, right? My parents were there. There were other uncles and aunts who were there, cousins. I have a big family. My father, there
Right.
were 12 of them, and my mother, four of them on her side, two others on the outside. So we had a big family. But it's one thing to have a big family, but it's another thing to have the type of support that is needed to get you there. And so during difficult times, it was family who came in to actually support in times of weakness, in times of sickness. Say when
Right.
I had challenges, and I did have a time when I had health challenges per se. It was family who came to give
Right.
that support, but not just my not natural and physical family, but also my church family. I got baptized at the age of 11 on June 14, 1992. I remember the
Yes.
day, and you can see I'm dealing with numbers. So I
Yes.
was there, I marked those times,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know. It was a milestone for me because I took on the Lord baptized Bishop Brown at the time was just Pastor Brown, uh, who my pastor who mentored me in terms of how I should grow as a child of God, what was right, what was wrong, how I should live, and so I appreciated that. And there were others who poured into me to allow me to be able to, go along the journey and to learn the lessons of life.
Oh, really, really powerful. And so church was a big part of your
Absolutely.
growing up. How does this really and what are the benefits that you have seen growing up in church, and how this really helped to hone who you have become today? Um how does it help you to deal with the obstacles, dealing with your coming up and not having much, you're coming up and find out, okay, here it is, I have a speech impediment and I have to be in church, and sometimes they're calling you to do stuff we know it is Sunday school and
Yeah.
all of that. How did this help you, help you along to really develop that courage to step to the forefront?
Well, good question. Well, a lot of it is about resilience. So the truth is that if we're honest with ourselves, people like me, probably yourself as well,
Hmm.
we learn a lot of what we learn from going to church. So
Yes.
you are in church, you are moderating, you're doing quizzes for exams, you're also doing presentations, right? So you get to build not just you as a spiritual person, but you also get to build yourself, your physically. You build your capacity, so you're
Hmm.
able to actually grow and build relationships. So you start to interact in terms of how you deal with leaders and leadership.
Yes.
You
Yes.
start to learn how it is that you delegate, how you bear responsibility to people. You understand how to empathize with people as well, and to understand some of the things that people are going through. A lot of people think that you just get up one day and you are good at certain things. They don't understand that you have, you buck your toe sometime.
Hmm.
You have made a lot of mistakes, but every time that you think you're gonna fall down, you bounce back. Not because
Yes.
you are any good for yourself, but
Yes.
you just keep on. God just keeps on giving you, because again, you learn through the word that weeping may endure for a night,
For the
but
joy.
joy is coming in the morning. So you have that hope in you to know that every time it's going to get better.
Yes.
May look like it's tough right now, but it's
Yes.
going to get better because I'm going to put my trust in God. You learn that troubles don't
Last.
last always.
Always. That's really powerful. And you'll talk about bounce back and resilience. Um, Describe that moment for me, that pivotal moment in your life when you really had to push past fear and doubt, like it's standing in front of you. And it feels so real and almost tangible, like it can be cut. And how did you push past that? Talk to me along that turning point, that pivotal moment in your life that you said, look, I really have to push past this.
So my God, there are so many points that I've had to push through, but I'll probably start from my most recent one. So
Yes.
as you have indicated, and you can see, I've written a book. And about 15 years ago, somewhere around 2009, 2010, I actually started to write another book.
Hmm.
And in writing the book, my computer crashed. I couldn't
Wow.
retrieve the information, and I pretty much forgot about it. I said, look, I can't go back over this. It's a tough one. I have, of course, written articles which have been
Right.
published in the newspaper, and I said, boy, I can't go through this. But in 2019-20, when the pandemic came, it's like the Lord inspired me one more time again that um, you can write a book and you can leave something tangible that
Hmm.
people can benefit from. And not just a book of what I believe, but a book that's grounded in the word of the Lord. And so when I looked in a time of panic, a time where people were running for answers, I said to myself, Lord, what is it that you are talking to me about? How can we solve this problem? And that's how, of course, I got the inspiration through the Word of God. I turned to God as a source who revealed to me that a feast is made for laughter. You
Hmm.
know, wine make it merry, but money answereth all
All
things. And
things.
I put away my fear, and I put away myself, and I started to lean on the Lord, and He started to minister to me with different scriptures and different words as to what is there. Hence, I was able to overcome my fear of not starting back again. And I've started to write this book, and I'm sure it
Hmm.
won't be the last
Right.
of the books to come.
It is a journey indeed. We know in writing, sometimes you start many, many years, and then, persons are seeing the fruit of it, and people will ask, how long did it take you? And it can take you a lot of time, because we know that so much happen in life at different times and different stage that you have to pause, you have to reflect, and you have to come back again, and something happened that take you away. How did your mindset evolve through the different stages of your journey, coming from childhood to even writing to career path to, and as we're going to move into career and talk about that, how did your mindset evolve through the journey? Because oftentimes we can be stuck into, and why I ask you the question, because we can be so stuck into who we were, or what we didn't have, or what we had, or what we should have had, or how we think we should have been treated and we weren't treated, and we can become so stuck into what happened and the past, and that we don't realize that we still have permission to go forward and permission to be. How did your mindset then evolve through the different stage of your journey?
So it's interesting, Dr. Links, because my journey, and as I looked at it and just thinking about it right now, is one in which it's like a hill and a valley. Sometimes I felt like I'm on the mountaintop, and other
Mhm.
times I'm in the valley. My mind goes back to my primary school years, in which my cousin recently reminded me. She said, "Listen, you were like a nerd in school. You were
Mhm.
doing well, but then like you got distracted because people were teasing you that you were a nerd, and that my grades started to fall off." And she spoke to somebody, a partner at a leading accounting firm, and said, "Talk to him, encourage him." And from that, I picked up again. But even though I went up again, I passed my exam, one of the top persons in my school and the top boy as well.
Mhm.
I then laxed off a little bit more again.
Mhm.
Went to the Jamaica College, you see me in my blue hair,
Yes.
you know, and we were doing quite well. But again, having gone through that phase of my journey,
Mhm.
I didn't come out with the type of results that I wanted at school. It wasn't the very high grade. But my mother said, "Listen, I'm going to give you another opportunity before work." And so she sent me to some supplemental school and classes where I could actually get my subjects. And,
Right.
as I went along, I had to make a decision while I was working. While there were people who were eating their nice box lunches, and they were, getting stuff on credit, I had to make a decision to freeze my juice in the night,
Mhm.
to carry to work. I had to make a decision to prepare breakfast with my mother in the morning, get some eggs and some sandwiches. I had to eat a banana chips or a bun for lunch,
Right.
right? To ensure that we didn't have a lot of resources. I had to throw our little partners to kind of get some money to achieve my financial goals, to be able to reach a stage where I can manage. So when you talk about the journeys and the lessons that
Yes.
I've learned one of being putting my trust in God. So I put God first, right? Because some people think they know your story, but they
Mhm.
don't know your story,
Yes.
right? It is
Yes. They see
God
the glory.
who, yeah, man, they see the glory, and they figure they know everything about your story, but they don't understand where you're coming from. That no, you never,
Mhm.
not because you never complain. You have people who
Yes.
because they squeal louder,
Yeah.
people think that they have gone through some stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
can't say I went to bed hungry. The Lord always
Right.
provide. But as I say, I have had those moments when things were tight, things were tough, and the Lord continued in every way to build me up to the point where I've reached a stage where I met a beautiful lady and married her in 2005, my wife
Right.
Kathy. And I tell everyone along the journey, the Bible says it's not good for the man to be alone.
Yes, sir.
My journey could not be complete or couldn't have turned the way it turned unless
Right.
I met my wife, and she has been an incredible help to me. So I have God, I have my God first, of course. I have my wife and family, and of course I've worked with the church family as well, and I've worked with others to collaborate in making me the person who I am today. So
Yes.
it's been a journey.
It's been a journey. And as you mentioned marriage, and we understand marriage isn't easy. It take work, and we got to make it work, right? When you get it, and as you talk about marriage and on your journey, what's one of the things that kind of shock you after you got married? Because you're excited about marriage, and you want to get married. I know you get married, and they're like, I didn't know this. I
Listen,
didn't learn that. But
listen. There are a lot of things that are not put in a book for marriage, right?
that's right.
There are a lot of things that people tell you, which are misconceptions
Mm-hmm.
about marriage, and if you try to follow everybody has a way to tell you out. One of the big ones that people told me before getting married was the fact that you don't marry to your in-laws.
Right.
And I agree. But what I have learned as well in my journey is it's important for you to have a good
Good
relationship with your,
relation.
with your in-laws,
That's right, sir.
because because if you don't have a good relationship with your in-laws, it can impact on how you and your partner
Mm-hmm.
operate. Think about it this way, the man and the woman come together, they are joined as one flesh, but it's like you're not paying attention to your other side of your flesh, which is your wife, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I'm not saying that they should influence or have any type of authority or power.
Right.
However, you have to ensure that your in-laws are also taken care of, whether it is their substance, their health, their ins and out. It's
Mm.
important, and vice versa. So I understand as well that your in-laws can be also a very good support for
Oh
you,
yes. Oh
you know,
yes.
in times when you are in low times. It's not
Mm-hmm.
everything you can run, go outside
No,
and tell
absolutely.
everybody, you know.
Absolutely.
But when you have good family, and I've always learned growing up, I didn't learn like some people to say it's my my father's uncle or auntie, in terms of classifying them as
Right.
my uncle or auntie. They're mine. So my
Right.
wife's aunts, I call them auntie this,
Yes.
uncle that.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. They are
Absolutely.
my family.
That's
Their
right.
family, her family is my family, and my family is her family. And if you can get that type of congruence,
Yes.
or that type of close knit bond between the family, then it helps with the marriage.
It help. Absolutely. Absolutely. I do the same, and I totally agree and concur, sir. It makes it so
Yes,
much,
sir.
so much easier. Makes it
Yes,
flow.
sir.
Makes it flow. And you mentioned church, and church has been a guiding source and support to you as you come up. Young man got saved, come up in the church, moved through the ranking of church, and to the point of assistant pastor. I know it wasn't easy. Church is one of the best place on earth, but can also be one of the harshest place on earth. One of the loving places on earth, but can also be one of the most rigid place on earth. It has that duplexity. It has um, that that it's almost like you never get that balance, but but it is later on that you'll see the all things work together for good. Yeah. But talk to me about that experience. There's a thing that I say, and the reason why I give it this the shape of the church or the assembly is that I said to people all the time that I'm not easily offended because I grew up apostolic, right? And people wonder why. And I said, because I grew up with people who didn't care about my feelings, they cared about my soul, right? And so in doing that, they'll tell you the truth. And a lot of time we ask for the truth, but we're not prepared. They'll tell you the truth. But the truth isn't always delivered. The package of the truth isn't always delivered good, but they
Yeah.
tell you as it is. So talk to me about your experience coming up in the church, and things that you have learned in the church, and things that you have to endure, but you have to push forward. And later on, you're seeing the all things work together for good.
Boy, this is an interesting one.
Yes.
Um, Dr. Link, the church is a very dynamic place, unlike any. You can go to work and you leave work at work, apart from the
Mm-hmm.
people who want to carry it home with them. But you can't leave church and just say you leave church like that,
Mm-hmm.
because when you come home, you still have to be a Christian.
Yes,
When you
sir.
go to work, you still have to be a Christian. If you go on a vacation, you still have to be a Christian. And when you come in the house of God, you still have to be a Christian. So it is one of those professions that you wear on you until. But when I came into church 30 odd years ago, I had no intention of being a elder or an assistant pastor. That was furthest from my mind. As a matter of fact, I can remember it like now. There were so many assistant pastors and elders and ministers which were there that um, it was the furthest thing from my mind. What I did know was I loved the Lord and I wanted to serve. I remember going to my family to spend some time in Bowden Hill as a child, and it was about a mile and a half or two from where my house was, and I was running in the night to come down to be home because I had to get to Sunday school the next morning for church. So from a child, I loved the Lord and I wanted to serve the Lord and to serve people. Now, what happens is that in church, as you have said, offenses come.
Mm-hmm.
Invariably offenses come. Offenses will come up and it will come down. But it's important to be grounded in the word of the Lord, firstly. So if you're not somebody who not it's just not a hearer of the word, but a doer of the word, then you're in trouble
Mm-hmm.
because you will jump today, you will speak in tongues, you will run the aisles, and by you step out of church, you're operating like a devil.
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Oh, yes.
So that's important for you to know the word. But you also need to have good leadership, right? So I grew up in a church where my pastor, Bishop Brown, an excellent leader, would mentor not just myself, but others as well
Yes.
in terms of how we should live, how we should operate, how we should grow. And then when you think about it as well, you have to have a village, a community of people
Mm-hmm.
who can draw you when you step out of line, so you
Right.
can actually get to where you need to go. But then as you go in church and as you grow in church, you get exposed to a lot of things. And when you start to grow, you start to face criticisms. You start to face the jealousy. You start
Mm.
to face harshness. And, you know, things that other people can have, you can't have,
Yes.
because people now start to look at you versus what God offers to you. You know, when you don't put yourself in a position and God puts you there, sometimes people don't understand the move of God. And so earlier this year, I was speaking in service, and the Lord showed me. He says, "Listen, God uses who He chooses, and He chooses who He uses."
Mm-hmm.
It is God who chose Joseph. He had other brothers. It was the same God who used him, but not only him. It's the same God who chose David, right? And the same God who saw Esther amongst all of those
Yeah, oh,
that were
yes.
there and granted her favor. But
Yes.
a lot of times in church, um, there is um, there is this thing in terms of looking at who people are, who they perceive you to be, and sometimes the criticism becomes hard.
Right.
And it becomes hard as well, Dr. Links, if you're someone who the Lord blessed with things. Nobody knows your story.
Yeah, yeah,
You didn't
yeah.
know when you had to run in the morning
Mm-hmm.
with your mother to catch a bus.
Yeah,
But they'll know when you get a car.
absolutely.
They wouldn't know when you were renting place and you had to find rent. But they will know when you actually buy a house.
Yeah,
You understand?
yeah,
God, who knows your faithfulness in little, has a way of rewarding you. But when the Lord rewards you, and just like Joseph, when he puts a coat on you, you now start to become targeted. And so people don't
absolutely.
understand that. I mean, people like me, I don't want to run down pastorship and leadership,
Right.
but I understood as I went along the journey. And I had a good mentor, Bishop Brown, who was pushing me and praying and say, harnessing that this is there. I've come to the recognition. I look back in my Bible earlier on today, and it said the old Bible, and it says, Brother Adrian Adman.
Yes.
Before I reach a stage of an elder, I thank God I saw it this morning. I'm humbled to
Yes.
know that I'm a brother. And I
Yes,
look
sir.
back again in the same scripture, and it says to me, listen, the rulers of the Gentiles, just like the sons of Zebedee, John, James, and John, the rulers
Mm-hmm.
of the Gentile, they come and they want to exercise authority over the people.
Mm-hmm.
But it says, it shall not be so amongst you. He that is greatest amongst you, let
Become
him be your
chiefest.
minister.
Yeah, the
Let him be a
minister. Yes.
servant,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
how I've tried to live it and work it from there.
And that's one of the things we have to see in church, Rev, and I really thank you for that transparency, is um is that the higher we go, which we call my brethren and friend, my brother that recently passed, Ella Philip Brown,
Yeah.
once said to me, never see it as a promotion, but we must always see what we consider elevation as demotion. And that's the way how we
Mm,
think. And I said to him, why would you call it a demotion? He said to me, because let the greatest among you become the chiefest of servant. And so the higher you go in what we call ranking of church, is the greater service is required from you, is the
yeah.
greater sacrifice is required from you. And so now you have been moved. He said you have been demoted from the position of being served to serving.
Yep.
And it changed my mindset forever. And that's
All,
just the way I always think. It changed my mindset forever to
all
not,
about servanthood.
yes, and not seeing you of being served and seeing what the accolades attached to it or the privileges that's attached to it, but see yourself in the position of serving. One bishop said to me in England, if I was supposed to choose me, I wouldn't have chosen me. But God, in his infinite wisdom, he said, if I had a choice, I would never choose me.
Yeah, well, and that's the same for me when I was thinking. I mean, I'm saying, look, I don't have the best speech.
Right.
That's it. But God, again, the Lord knows the heart and He knows what His people need. And so
Hmm.
when the call is made, who will I say, here am I, Lord,
Yes, send
send
me.
me,
Yes.
here am I. If He calls, I've got to be attentive and listen to the voice of the Lord, and whatever
Hmm.
He says, let His
We
will be
could do.
done.
But Rev, a lot of time we can disqualify ourselves based on, we can disqualify our own self by looking at our now. And there's oftentimes a lot persons, there's a part I wrote in a book called um you you have already failed. Failure is a feeling long before it becomes a reality. And a lot of time we disqualify ourselves even when nobody disqualify us. Why? Because we're looking at everything else that we see. We're looking at the pastor and we hold him here, and we're looking at ministers and we're looking at elders and the way they preach and the way they being and the way they teach and the way they serve. And we're aligning ourselves with what we see, and we're saying, me? No, that's not me. And while other person are saying, yeah, I see you going there, man. That's where I see you going. But you can disqualify your own self even when God is saying yes.
Well, well. The truth is, Rev, um, Isaiah said, "Woe is me!
Yes,
I'm
yes.
undone. I
Because
dwell
he's
among a
seeing
people
the
with
glory.
unclean." When he sees the glory and he
Yes.
sees God, he says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't
Yeah.
think I'm qualified for this.
No.
You want
How did
me
I
to
get
go and
here?
speak? Yeah, yeah, yeah. How did I get here? You know." But again, the Lord said, the Bible said He took a live coal, place on His tongue to
Yes.
purge him. So the more we get less of us and our
Yes.
abilities and more of God, is the more that we'll be strengthened to go
Yes.
forward. I think
To go
that's it.
forward.
Take the spotlight off us, put it
Yes.
on God, and
And put
He
it on.
will handle it.
Yes, the ability in church, and I want to touch on this because many years ago, as we're coming up in church, there used to be this notion that it's almost like you can't be saved and have a successful career. Remember, there was a point where university and college was the devil. You're
Oh
going
my
there,
God.
you're going to backslide.
My
What
God.
you're going to, you don't need that. God will give it. We went through all of that
Yeah,
those
man.
stage.
Not for him.
Um, yes, how did and but still we knew that this time was coming and we wanted something greater. And so as we tap into career, how was that for you? How did you know this is the field that you want to go into? Talk to me about your transition. We talk about life growing up and you're coming up. How do you transition into your career and being saved and having to, tap into that, and in university and all the different challenges that comes with it? Talk to me about how you do that. You may have to work and go to school in the evening, and we're talking about the real journey now, to get into career.
So, thank you, Doc. So, interestingly, at about 9 years old, while young people actually go to bed at 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, I was up with my mother, counting money. While some people were counting sheep, I
Yes.
was actually counting money. So I was learning some of the skill sets about diligent and you know just being trustworthy and integrity. But
Mhm.
beyond that, I also went into. I didn't go to do my degree, first
Yes.
degree. I took another route because when you're going through a story and a journey, God has a way of taking you around
Yes,
different
sir.
routes from the norm. So I didn't get do a first degree. I did what is called the CAT, Certified Accounting Technician.
Yes.
After doing my normal subjects, my CXC, now C6 subjects, I then did, of course, my ACCA, which is a professional accounting course, accounting and finance course from the UK. And
Yes.
then that was in 2005, I did that. And 5 years later, along with my wife, I did my MBA in banking and finance. So
Mm,
from a child, I was being exposed to finances and money.
right.
And I found myself, of course, doing the educational backing for it. But all of that by itself wouldn't make sense if I wasn't also biblically grounded in the word of the Lord, right?
Hmm.
And so what happens is that sometimes when people there's a misconception that as a child of God, if you are successful, and you're able to navigate some of the educational stuff and some of the things that the Lord blesses you with, somehow you're not in alignment with the word. But
Mm-hmm.
John says, 1 John 3 says, listen, beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health,
Yes.
even as your soul
So,
prospers. So there's a balance to be found
yes.
between how you work in the kingdom and how you actually serve. As a matter of fact, why I keep us reading these things, I'm
Yes.
reminded that Paul got in the space with Aquila and Priscilla because he was also a tent maker. Read it in
Yes, he
Acts chapter
was.
18.
Yes, he
He was a
was.
tent maker as they were, and so he was able to relate to them. So there are people who, when we get our education or achievements, that we can get in the same room with them to minister and to witness about Jesus, that some other people will not be able to get in those rooms. So we have to understand that whatever we do is for the
Mm-hmm.
all to the glory of God.
Of God. So you have now took career and biblical principles and you have merged them into now what we have as a book, a groundbreaking book. Money answered all things. So now you have utilized all those experience from the career and
Yes.
take to say, listen, while I'm doing the career, I'm still in the Bible. So here is this, I'm gonna bring it together. Talk to me about that marriage.
So I'm going to talk to you about that marriage, Dr. Links. So what has happened is that I'm bringing together two subjects that people don't like to put together:
Yes.
Bible and
And
money.
money, yes.
Anytime you start to talk about money and start to talk about the Bible, it gets a little bit uneasy for people because
Mm-hmm.
they don't think it's a subject that is there. But there are principles, and a lot of them in the scripture, that teach you about money. There are principles that teach you how money can expand the kingdom. There are principles that teach you how to deal with your family, how to reduce debt, how to grow
Yes.
your wealth, how to give. Right? So people wouldn't mind you talk about everything that is there, except something that is there to benefit. And in the words of Solomon in Ecclesiastes 10:19, answer all things. There's a
Mm-hmm.
purpose for it. It should not dominate your life. It should not you should not worship it, but you should use it to the benefit of yourself, your family, and to expand the kingdom of God.
Powerful. And this is how this book is going to help persons who have purchased the
Absolutely.
book. Tell me where we can get the book to purchase.
The Dr. Links, you can get the book to purchase on Amazon.com. It's on all the Amazon platforms that are there. Just type in Money Answereth All Things. You'll see it pop up. It's in the hard cover version. There's a paperback version, and it is on ebook. So for persons who like to have the physical copies, they have a physical copy of the hardcover with me right here. They can
Mm-hmm.
get the hardcover. If you are somebody who just wants a paperback, I also have the paperback version of it that is
Mm-hmm.
here. And of course, if you are someone who wants to go on the go, you
For
can,
the
of
Kindle
course,
readers.
download the Kindle. But
Yes.
we don't discriminate against people who are just on those platforms. I've also placed it on Apple Books for persons who have their Apple devices. And of course, if you're in Jamaica and you're unable to order it on those platforms, I also can link with you for a couple orders directly.
Bookstores in Jamaica that is available.
Bookstore, yep, definitely. Bookstores in Jamaica. It's in Jamaica at the Bryan's bookstore. That's in the Springs Plaza, shop number 9. And it's also at the UPC Jamaica bookstore. That's close to Mullines Road. I'm looking to also get it into other bookstores in Jamaica, but we're working on those. But those stores have graciously consented to have the book, and people are purchasing. So I encourage persons, if you can't buy it online or you can't reach to me, you can also reach into the store for those books. That's there. I share, of course, content on my social media pages that relate to the book. And of
Mhm.
course, I go out and do speaking engagements to try to ensure that people can understand some of the content that's there as well.
Absolutely. Provide us with your social media handle where we can find you on social media.
So you can find me on social media and Adrian Adman, or you can look at my business pages. Out of the book, I've also launched a business. It's called Wisdom Finance Solutions, whereby I help people with individuals and organizations with their finances, whether it's accounting, finance, or taxation. I do financial consultations as well.
Right.
So I've had an entity called Wisdom Finance Solutions. You can find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook, find me on YouTube. And of course, I share content and interact with persons sharing biblical wisdom and sharing financial wisdom
Yes.
to persons.
Powerful. As we wrap this in about 5 minutes, I want to ask you some fireside question. Fireside talk.
My God,
Fireside talk.
I'm
What
burning.
is one lesson that life have taught you the hard way?
Life has taught me to just start. Just start.
Start.
Yeah.
Just start.
Um, sometimes we procrastinate. Sometimes we find all the excuses not to start. But I've learned that once you start writing, you can get there. My wife, and when you start, you have to have a vision. My
Mm.
wife loves to do planning and journaling, and she that's her thing. She does it excellent and very well. And when I really got serious about the book was when she says, write it down, write the vision, you know,
Yes.
state in terms of what you want to do, by when you want to finish it, what are the areas there. And I
Mm-hmm.
started to see the book come alive
Coming alive.
in
Yes.
ways that I could not think about. So it's important to just start. But when you start, you have to have a vision.
To have
You
it.
have to, don't procrastinate on it. Just start.
So whatever you desire in life, just start. Start the process. Make the first step. Just
Right.
start. And
Have to
then
start.
you see from there. How do you stay grounded as you grow and succeed? How do you stay grounded in who you are, in your person, your moral, your value, your principles, your faith? How do you stay grounded?
Uh, I stay grounded, Dr. Links, by understanding that I serve a higher God. So the
Hmm.
more I go up, is the more I have to go down. So it involves more humility, it involves more prayer, it involves me looking in terms of to say, this is my brother, this is my sister, right? Doing unto others as I'd have them do unto me, right? So I put myself in a position where I stay grounded by trying to follow the word of the Lord. This is what the Bible. What does the Bible say? What did Jesus do? If I can every time try to lean on the word of God, because the Bible has a wealth of knowledge. I mean,
Right.
why would I go out and read the biggest economic books and financial books, not understanding that God is a source of wealth, that He
That's
has
right.
already provided me with principles that can actually help me to solve a lot of the problems that I have. So I stay grounded to the Word of God. I stay grounded to the principles that I've learned through my family, both my physical and church family, and I try to please God, then please man after.
After. Thank you so much. When you think about your journey and you encapsulate it all, what advice would you give to your younger self? You're talking to a younger Adrian. What advice would you give him? No, you're looking back over. And what advice would you give to your younger self?
Um, I would give my younger self. Wow, I still feel young, by the way.
Yeah, your
Uh,
younger self. High school Adrian. Early Adrian trying to
um,
navigate the path that you want to go.
my advice to my younger self would be to trust in the Lord. There are many pathways that I could not see myself going on. There are things ahead of me that I can't see. There are events that would happen in my life that I would not believe that it would happen. But
Yes.
in the midst of all of this, it would be trust God.
Trust
Adrian,
God.
remember, Adrian, that they that are with you are more than they that are against you.
That's my
Right? I
scripture
would,
right there.
yeah, man, that's a scripture, and the Lord gave myself and my wife that a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And so I would say, Adrian, God is writing your story.
Mm.
Trust Him.
What piece of wisdom do you live by now? What piece of wisdom you live by now? That life that you hold on to.
The wisdom that I live by now, the wisdom that I live by now is that the suffering of this present world
Mm.
is not worthy to be
Be
compared to the
compared.
glory which will be revealed in. So I think to myself that all things, not
Work
something,
together.
but all
All things.
things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them who are called according to his purpose.
Encapsulate your journey in one word for me. One word, Elder. Your journey. Looking back and considering all things. Encapsulate your journey in one word.
Ah, faithful.
Faithful.
Yeah.
Faithful. Throughout the journey, in spite of, you
God
have
has been
remained
faithful and I have remained
faithful.
faithful.
And you have remained faithful. We're looking ahead and we're looking at, as we talk about the lessons, the journey and the lessons. What are some of the lessons you will say that you have learned along the way that you want to impart?
Okay. So lesson number one, uh, put God first.
Mm,
Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all these things shall be added. So God first. The
yes.
second lesson I'd want to leave is that family is important. Family is important, and you need a good family to support you. Family at home, family at church, and just a very good community. The other lesson I'd want to leave is collaboration and group
Mm,
work, right? I want to have more of we and
yes.
less of me,
Me.
right? So I want to hear more time. It's more about we, how we can work together, and less of me. And of course, I want to say that everyone needs good mentors, right? You can grow, you can grow as much as those who are around you, but you need
Yes.
somebody who is higher than you
Yes, sir.
to take you to where you need to get to,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And anytime you feel like you are too high, like you have no one that can direct you, then you're gonna find yourself in trouble. But
Yes.
humility is the aim of the game, right? To get you to where you need to get to.
Go. As we make our close in 30 seconds, um, what do you hope people will remember from your journey? From your journey and what you have shared, what do you hope people remember?
Oh, I'm hopeful that people remember that I served, I gave of myself.
Mm,
Um, I was someone who looked out for others, before even considering myself, and that I have empathy,
yes.
not just for those who are in the kingdom of God, but for those who are outside. I want to ensure that, of course, I'm an example of the believer. So I have my wife. I want to ensure that I treat my wife good, treat my family good. So I want people to remember that I serve and I serve to the glory of God.
To the glory of God. Thank you so much, Elder Adrian Adman, for
Thank you,
stopping by
sir.
with us. Yes, on the Journeys and the Lessons podcast. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Journeys and Lessons podcast. I do hope that today's conversation remind you that every step, every struggle, and every small victory matters. Your story is still your story. Yes, it is still being written, and the lessons you've learned or learning have purpose. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to our guest, Elder Adrian Adman, and of course, this incredible book that he has. Money answereth all things. Yes, and these are biblical principles that will help you and guide you on your journey. So, thank you, sir, for sharing your honesty and thank you for sharing your truth and your journey with us and that honesty from the heart. And if there's something in today's episode that resonates with you, share it with someone who needs it and need to know. And until next time, keep growing and remember that your journey has meaning and your lessons are your power. This is Dr. Lincoln signing off. And I'm saying, be well, stay determined, and never stop becoming the person that you're meant to be. This is the Journeys and the Lessons podcast. Unlock, unfiltered, your journey, your lessons. Thank you so much for being with us again. And thank you to my very special guest, Elder Adrian Adman. Thank you, sir. Take care.
Thank you.
The journey and the lessons, your journey, your lessons, the journey.